Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today is part 2 of the CV Life red dot sight that I put on my Palmetto State Armory, and that is zeroing it. Let's get started. So you can tell we are approaching twilight, which is the best time to do this. With the laser rangefinder, I mapped out that this white bucket is 50 yards away from my deck. Works out pretty well for a 50-yard zero. What I've learned to do is take a shitty flashlight, put it on its lowest setting, and it just needs to be illuminated enough that you can accurately ID it all the way back at the deck. Then I'm going to use a laser bore sighter, put it into the muzzle of this guy, point it at this bucket, and that's going to get me within like a foot of a 50-yard zero. I then have a red dot on the bucket, and I will hold this as steady as I can, and I will line up the dots, and that's going to get me at least on paper for a 50-yard zero. While we're here, you can tell it's very, very dark over here, and even in this twilight, the orange and green paint just pops. So you can't even see that tree right there. That's probably, call it 5 yards away. But with the paint that I put on these guys, it absolutely pops in the dawn and dusk, which is typically when you're going to be hunting, when there's lower light. Absolutely stands out. You cannot tell me, you can't see the gun up against that background. You can't tell me you're going to be making out 3 strips of black metal in the darkness. Very nice, very cheap sight addition. Turning on the red dot, you can see I'm already having difficulties hunting for it. There it is. So we're going to bump it down to its lowest setting. And apparently this has a night vision setting, which I don't want to activate, but even that's pretty nice. And then we can turn on the red dot. So basically what we'll be doing is I have a red dot on this already that I did do a 50-yard zero yesterday. Ideally, you can see those 2 dots are pretty much on top of each other right out of the box, which is nice. All you have to do is move your sight to the side like this, and you can keep track of which dot is which. Also, the laser is strobing. So I have a strobing dot that I can use as my zero. And I know my top dot is the red dot on the iron, and I can use that instead of fussing around with the red dot or the muzzle device bore sighter. But I'll probably just go ahead and check my math and do both of them. Let me get back to the deck and wait for the darkness to set in. We'll get that working. While we're waiting, I figured I'd show you, this is a laser bore sighter. Basically, it's a pole, a stick that you would shove into all the way down to, I believe, a 17 HMR, 22 long rifle, AR-15 223, 308, all the way up to a 45 ACP, I believe. And basically on the end of this, you'll see this guy. You thread that off. You can hear the mosquito bug zappers doing their work. God bless them. So I'm going to put that one aside. I'm going to pull out the 9mm tip, and you can see it is of a 9mm diameter. Screw that into place. Okay, until there is no gap in between, right? So I'm going to loosen it a little bit. You will see there is a gap in between. So we do not want a gap in between. And basically, you'll notice it has a funnel shape here. So I'm going to be shoving the tip that we just threaded into place down the muzzle. Of course, we're going to show that we are safe. I do not have a magazine in the magazine well, so we want to make sure that there is no projectile in this. And you're essentially going to Revolutionary War, Civil War ramrod this into the barrel. So we now have 2 points of contact. We have the threaded on piece that's about this deep in there, and then we have the funnel cuts that are sitting along the crown of the barrel. That's going to give you a pretty close mechanical estimation on where that projectile is going to land. And then you turn it on, and we now have a red dot that is coming out of the barrel, right? So it is this. It's basically a calibrated laser pointer. Again, I put it into the muzzle. And now where I point the gun, where I point my sights, that red dot should be, right? It won't necessarily be. So we're going to trust that the laser is correct or close enough to correct, and we're going to adjust our sights to it. Man, look at how, okay, so I'm very much in the dark right now, and I don't have really any ambient lighting. Those are not charged. I did not hit these painted sights with any kind of flashlight. I don't have a flashlight on me right now. Apparently a laser won't charge it, but they're absolutely standing out. That is very easy to line up those irons, even in 9:30 summer darkness, but it gets better when I do this. So these I have charged up. I used my UV flashlight, and you can see that they're actually emitting not only light, but their own color. So it doesn't glow white, and the front doesn't glow white. The front will glow orange and the rear will glow orange. Really makes them pop, makes them essentially night sights. You do have to charge them first. But if you're about to go outside and dispatch a critter or figure out what that bump in the night is, you can charge them up and they will emit their individual colors, which makes lining up those sights all the easier. So that's what we have there. We're going to wait for the remainder of the light to go away. The darker it is, the easier it's going to be to find this bore sighter laser 50 yards away and line it up on that bucket. So I will cut back when it's a little bit darker. All right, so this is what we have off my deck. And if I do this, this, and zoom in a little bit more, that glowing light there is the side of the bucket that I put the flashlight on. So now that is something that I can see 50 yards away. It actually illuminates quite nicely. That makes finding the target with my irons, or in this case with my red dot sight, easier because now it's illuminated. Very easy to put a red dot on that white bucket. It is a 3-gallon bucket for what that's worth. You could do this with a milk jug, and you know how wide a milk jug is, right? About half as wide as a human chest at 50 yards. Not bad. So I know I'll at least be on paper. This is a way for me to spend significantly less ammunition trying to zero in the zero. I can at least bore sight it, which is going to give me plus or minus 1 or 2 feet, right? It's going to be a cone that I'm shooting into. Unlike the movies, it's never a point of impact, it's exact point of aim, especially in between more than one shot. Man, those mosquito sappers are absolutely earning their money. So that's what we have. Let me see if I can't get the gun lined up for you so you can see exactly what I'm doing from the operator's end. Okay. So we are focused right now on that milk jug. I'm going to bring up the red dot, and I don't know how well it's going to work. I'm going to put it down here. The bigger glowing dot is the red dot in my red dot sight. The bottom one is going to be the muzzle device bore sighter. Okay, so you can see the one that is currently moving around is me moving around the bore sight. So you can either adjust your red dot to be brighter than the bore sight, or you can move your optic out of the way and you can easily identify which one is which. But I'm just going to be pointing both of them at that bucket. I'm going to be trusting the smaller one, which again is my bore sighter. I'm going to go like this. So I can easily see that red dot in the dark because I waited for it to be dark. I'm going to put that on top of the bucket, and then I'm going to move my red dot optic into place, and I'm going to point that at the bucket, and then I'm going to zero him. So let me do that off camera, and that's about all there is. So I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera. I find what I see on the display versus what actually shows up reviewing the video are two different things. But I have my red dot above the bucket. Now it's on the bucket, and I can tell on your screen there is a color change. It is always illuminated, but now it's got a little bit of red. The red dot is actually maybe a foot high, so it's not actually off by that much. I have a little light here that I can set to a lower brightness. I have a basically a Christmas tree tote that I'm setting the gun up on. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. And we're going to see if I went in the correct up-down direction. I don't know if the up-down is moving the dot up-down or the point of impact up-down. In this case, up appears to be moving the dot up. To confirm that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clockwise should put the two dots closer together. You, of course, will not be seeing that. I'm just narrating what I have going on here, and that does appear to be the case. So I'm going to do 10 down, which is clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As I line up the dots, that actually opened it up. So we're going to do 20 counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Now, I have the red dot above the bucket, line it up onto the bucket, and now both of my dots are on top of each other. The other way you can do it is, if I look with I usually aim with both eyes open. That's the way I've been trained. It's been working for me. So what I can do is I can close my dominant eye, which is my right hand, and I'm right-handed. My right dominant eye is the one that's looking down the red dot. So I can use my left eye. I can see the red dot off to the top left of the bucket. I can line it up with my left eye and then open my right eye at the same time and see if those two dots are on top of each other, which for me it is. Again, you won't be seeing it because that camera doesn't do too well in the dark as it is, let alone looking through a sheet of glass that has a supernova red dot on it. So that is how I bore sight it. We will confirm in the next video how close that bore sight is. It will be off the closer you get, right? So if the point of impact, point of aim is at 50 yards. Anything closer than that, your shots are going to be hitting inches lower than where you're aiming. Anything past that, your bullets are going to be hitting higher than where you're aiming. The nice thing about that, that's because of the trajectory. So bullets do not travel horizontal with the ground for very long. Between gravity and wind, air pressure of it going, the speed of sound, it is going to start slowing down and it is going to start dropping. So by having the intersection point of the arc, think a trebuchet launching a rock, right? It's got a very tall arc and then it'll move its way back down towards the earth. Your bullet's doing the same thing. It's just doing it substantially faster over a larger distance. So if I have a 50 yard zero, at 100 yards, it may be like a foot high, and then it's going to start arcing its way back down towards the earth. So honestly, I don't see myself taking a 100-yard shot. But anything past that, you're essentially going to be lining up the dot with the center of mass, and you're going to be hitting either high or low by a foot or two. But let's say I'm aiming at the bottom of the rib cage. 2 feet high is the head. 2 feet low is the pelvic girdle. So giving yourself 2 feet of slot plus or minus above or below is perfectly acceptable. I think you're going to have difficulties justifying in a court of law a 100-yard self-defense shot, but possibly even just for target shooting and all. Wow, even in the dark, while my iron sights are relatively easy to find, I find finding the red dot in the darkness is quite easy, more easy than finding it in daylight. So that is just going to be a training thing. But you want that red dot to be in the middle of your window as you're doing the bore sighting. So that's about it. It is a little difficult with a handgun. You can't really put it in a vise or put a tripod on it or something like that to hold it stable. So I just have one of those Christmas tree totes flipped upside down. It's kind of elevated at an angle, call it a 10-degree angle, sloping up away from me, and I'm putting the gun on the apex of that corner and kind of teeter-tottering it, wobbling it up and down, back and forth kind of thing until I got it lined up. But I can very easily cover half that bucket with the red dot sight, and that's at 50 yards. So that 3 MOA dot is small enough that you can still see your target, but big enough that you can pick up that dot. And just because it's 3 MOA minutes of angle, that doesn't mean you can't make it smaller. So by reducing the brightness, the size of that dot appears to get smaller to your eye, and then the brightest setting makes it much larger. So not only is it a larger dot, a brighter dot, but it can also be used to be a gross, easier, faster to find target acquisition, or you can reduce the brightness and get more precise shots that will take more time to find the dot and have that dimmer dot cover up your target. But I digress. Lots of chatter. That is about what we have. Like I said, in the next video, maybe this upcoming weekend, I'll actually be shooting it, confirming the laser sight 0. So that's the laser on my gun. I'll be confirming that. And I guess for giggles now, I did do a bore sight for this laser sight yesterday. And I did a bore sight for the red dot tonight, and they are literally on top of each other. So it is consistent. In the next video, we will see if it is precise. So stay tuned. As always, this is Outside the Target Demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, as always, leave them in the comments section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.